Hi, everyone. Welcome to the session. We are going to do a beautiful, beautiful, magical white tree today. So the process would be to first start with the background. We'll create a textured background, and then we will create the magical tree after we do the background. So for the first step, let's take the colors sky blue or a light blue. We don't have blue. You can mix white to your cobalt blue or ultramarine blue. Ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, if you have, you can use it. And let's take white. So all throughout the class, I will also give you some hacks and some tips how to use the acrylic paint and maximize and leverage that medium. So one little tip is that when we paint acrylic and if it's too dry, like the base is dry, then the paint doesn't move so smoothly. So to make it move smoothly, we can use a mist, water mist. You can make notes and slide, but not too much. If you do too much, then the paint will get diluted. So just lightly I'll do it. You can also use just an empty, like a clean brush and use water. So I'll just show the technique. Here I have my water. So I'm just going to dip a flat brush, size of 1 inch, 1.5 inch, canvas around A4 size or any size closer to that, and simply go with the brush lightly. So either water mist or you can use a brush to make the surface wet, but not too wet. In case it's too wet, take a tissue and wipe it off. Just run it like that, not too wet. Now let's have fun creating the background. The colors, sky blue. I'll start with a mix. So let's do a mix of a shade like this. You see, like a cobalt blue shade, primary blue, any shade which you like. You can add some white to it. So like that, create a palette of lighter blue, little bit darker, and dark blue. So 3 shades I have here. Any questions? Feel free to ask me in the chat. Anytime you want me to slow down, you can also write it to me in the chat. What I have taken is a sky blue color. I've mixed it. I'm using Liquitex brand today. You can use any brand. It's a soft body paint. So in acrylic, there are different type of paints and brands. Personally, I like Golden and Liquitex. White. So you see, I'm not blending it totally and just leaving it like that. Also keep a palette knife ready. We will use it to create the background. Use a flat brush to do the background. Flat brush which looks like this. So there are different type of brushes, flat brush, round brush, liner. So I will not overload with information. You can always ask me later also via email and I'll be happy to answer. So let's go with these colors. Are you ready with the paint mix? Show me a thumbs up. Perfect. Yeah, very, very good, Zara. So let's load the paint in both sides of the brush. Beginner's mistake is to load in one side sometimes, like a flat paint when we are doing for background, both side loading will be a good idea. Also, if you see, I haven't mixed it completely. So I'm leaving those streaks some white. So loading my brush with multiple shades, both the sides, a little bit white. Why? You'll see that it will create a texture with colors. So like that, we will go from, let me see if I can move it a little bit back. So just go with from left to right. And you can see those tricks. Don't blend everything, just go like this. Acrylic creates very good dimensions if it is in layers. So we'll create a couple of layers for the background. Very less water because we want it to be dry. What you see on the screen is the entire canvas. So you can consider this as the entire canvas. Just go from left to right and from right to left. Anytime you feel the canvas is too dry, you can always mist it. So just go from right to left. And so if you notice, I'm not doing this brush strokes. I'm not doing up to down, this movement I'm not doing. I'm not doing diagonal movements. I'm just going from left to right and right to left. Other small technique which I would like to share is in case there is a paint which looks streaky, for example, I put some thick, let me put like thick streaks. It looks like this, streaky. What you do is lightly go with the brush and it will get lost in the background, lightly tapping. Very, very light-handed. Anytime brush is too like not moving smoothly, just dip only the tip of the brush. Only the tip of the brush, not entirely. In case there is excess water, you remove it with a tissue paper. Let's go. Today we are not using any medium because you can create paintings without spending too much money is what I wanted to show. But you can also use medium like modeling paste. You can make a note of it if you like, or texture paste. So you get different type of paste and you can mix it with the paint, or you can apply it first on the canvas and then apply the paint. Both works. I will just wait for you now to do the background. Yes, the entire canvas. So what you see on the screen is the entire canvas. Being mindful of the corners. So all the corners, sometimes when you'll see the corners are not getting covered. So just pay attention to that and lightly, you can just go. As I mentioned, in acrylic, when we do it in layers, it creates more dimensions and the painting becomes more interesting. So we will go with second coat. So I'm using light blue. So once I'll do light blue, sky blue. In case you don't have a lighter blue, just mix white with your ultramarine. And then using dark blue, ultramarine blue, and just go left to right. And from right to left. So even movement in your painting, you can show like this. See, this is creating some kind of dynamism to your background rather than a flat tone. Going with light blue. More dimension, more interest. Take your time to do the background. I will wait. If you're using palette knife, it's better that you first do one layer and then do palette knife. So it will give more dimension. To use a palette knife, you will hold it like this. Make an angle like a 45-degree and take your paint. Again, I will take two shades. So I'm taking this and white, a little bit of white. I have the paint loaded at only one side. So I have to observe which side. It's this side. So I'll press it, the canvas, and then pull it one direction. So that's how I'll create texture. This is a good idea to first do one layer and then use the knife again to create more dimensions. I think I'll need more white. Whenever you need paint, you can just keep taking. Again, to create harmony, I'm just going with two directions, left to right, right to left. Now, every painting is different. You can definitely go all direction for some backgrounds. But for this, I think this is more suitable. Now to this paint, which I'm doing with the palette knife, I'm not mixing any water. So that you can keep it in mind. So that's why it will have a thick texture. Otherwise, it'll tend to blend with the background. So it's like a paste form. Like a paste, and then go. Once you're done with this background, just show me, let me know so I can see it. With gallery view, I will just see that what you're doing. This. It's a lot of paint we'll be using for this background. Now I have loaded, after white, I've loaded the ultramarine glue. Same way, anytime you want me to show any step again, just let me know. Also, another tip would be to not run your palette knife again and again. You can tilt it if you want, that you can do upside down. I will not move it because there's camera, but you can always make it upside down so you have better control over your canvas. Just rotate it, and then I think this part I will just lift it a bit and do it. Now a little bit in the center. Try to avoid using white in the center because our white tree will come in the center. So use the light blue and dark blue. So to use a palette knife, another tip would be to use a flat surface rather than the well palette, because you can easily lift it, drag and lift the paint. Anytime your paint goes up, you can just remove it because you won't be able to use it. So you can remove it in your palette and just use the bottom part. Now some browns, very little bit, I will put at the base where I will start my tree. So it can be burnt umber, raw sienna, any those colors or a mix of those colors. And just you can imagine, okay, my tree will start here. So just lightly. Again, this is just to create a dimension. I'm going with browns. burnt umber, not too much. Couple of times I'm just tapping it. Lightly, just dragging the paint a bit. And leave it there. Take your time to do the background. So I'll just wait. Now, this is the time where your personal liking, you can take liberties. So if you like a lighter blue background, you can do a lighter blue. If you want a little bit darker, then you can put more ultramarine blue. That's it. Depends. I usually like for this type of painting, something mid-tone will be nice. So mix of um, dark and light, but you can also do it entirely a very light shade of blue also. I'm just adding some more darker blues. Yes, I add dimension, it starts looking better and better. So yeah, that's the thing about acrylic. And the benefit of live session is you can ask me any questions anytime, any doubts you have. So feel free to clarify anything. It can be as simple as how to hold palette knife or how to mix a certain texture, color, anything. Yeah, that will be a very vast subject. But definitely some are sharp. I will show you what I have just handy. Maybe, oh, let me see the classes. Yes, you will learn a lot about palette knife and uses on the day which when we do the C. C and yeah, so you'll come to know over the upcoming 2 sessions, which is the flower and the C. So definitely that I will keep it in mind. So just to give some idea, like you have a round tip one, when you do flowers, you will use a round tip one. If it's a mountain, how then you will do a sharp edge one. Then I have one. So Bob Ross, the famous painter, he used to paint it something like this for the mountains and to make straight lines. All this in the day when we do the sea, you will come to see that. Here, 2 more palette knives I have, just to show it right away. So this is a round tip one to do flowers or any round thing. It's a very good one to use. This is also slightly different, more angular on the right. There are paintings which you can do entirely with palette knife. If anyone is done with the background and wants to show, can hold it up on the screen and I can see that. It's a gallery view. So yeah, very good. Looks good. Very nice. I'll just wait for Zara. In the meanwhile, the next palette we'll use or some kind of a, well, you know, like a bottle cap or a palette. So we mix white with water. So just prepare something like that. After this, ideally, if it dries up a little bit, it's easier. But for us, I think we can continue. So just I'll mix water to my white paint and make a paste like a liquid. Let's mix it. You can mix your paint with a palette knife like this, so it mixes beautifully. Basically, if it is too thick, then the paint would not move smoothly. So I'll just mix water, make a nice consistency. So you can see the consistency which I have made. Add a little spray of water. Yeah, Zara, hold it up. I want to see what you have done. Hold it steady. Yeah, super. Very good. Very good. Now mix your white with water. Very important step, but because sometimes people I see they try to do directly, you see those thin lines and all doesn't move. The paint doesn't move smoothly. And this other thing you can use, I will just show. I'll not use it today because everybody will not have it. So I'll just show it for your idea. So this is a glazing medium, liquid glazing medium, slow drying extender for acrylic colors like this. Also, you can use that makes the color dry smoothly and also it moves freely. But for this painting is not needed. That would be mainly for painting animals, birds with detail or like fur, a feather, those kind of things. Now, after mixing the white, use a fine tip brush. If you have a liner brush, you can use, see, this is a liner brush. So basically it has a longer bristle and a thin thin tip. It's called a liner brush. Liner brush comes in different sizes. So I have this is detailer, it has shorter bristle. This is a rigger brush, it has a longer, much longer bristle. And these two are liner. Size 1 and 0.5. Now this magical tree, we will use very fine brushes also, but to start with, you can take a fine tip and you can take a ruler or something. Some people struggle with drawing straight, so or figuring out the middle part of the canvas. So you can just see what is your canvas size. Don't touch the canvas, it's wet. So just figure out, okay, so this is 25, so it will be 12 and a half for me. So here is the middle. So don't touch the canvas. Even without touching, I can now make the brush, like dip it once in water. But after dipping, you can just lightly tap it. So why? To remove excess water. So if there is excess water, usually there is. So I'll just remove it. Take my fine tip brush, load it properly. Once the paint is loaded properly, then only you get this, like a surface where the paint is running smoothly. So now again, the center, I usually don't use all that. I just do it optically. But I see some especially kids find it difficult to figure out the middle. So here, this is my middle. And then I'll just draw this line. You can take the help of the ruler if you want. I will be bad at making with ruler, but rather straight line. But here you go. So got the straight line like that. Now continue. I get my straight line, so I know now I'll draw the main trunk of the tree. I might do roots also. There is a good, nice concept where tree and the roots are also showing. So under this, we can do the roots. will take some more white. Just with white, you can go like this and pull out lines, both the side branches. If a little bit of blue mixed with your white, there's no problem because it will look more harmonious also. So it's okay. White tree, but little hints of blue, no problem with that. Little bit uneven line for the trunk. I'll do a second layer after it dries because the paint is wet. So there might be a little bit of like see-through part. So it's okay. Little bit wider base because it has to hold the tree. So the base has to be strong and wide. And going with the thin lines. As the background is wet, you might have to wipe your brush every time you do one branch. After that, you can wipe your brush. Also use multiple brush. I have switched to another. I will use two brushes, just to 2 to 3 brushes, just that it is easier. Like this. Slowly taking your time, you can do that. You can uh, you can move your brush a bit, like swiping movements. You see how I'm doing it? Also, you can tilt your brush a little. Remember that this is acrylic and we are not using extender. So from time to time, just remember to mix water. Slowly taking my time. You can see I'm doing it, not rushing the process. Yeah, right. So if you're able to see the screen and hear the audio, if everything is good, just write to me. Okay, perfect. Anytime if there is a disconnection, you can just join again. Also, another little tip I would like to give now is keep a piece of tissue so you can just tap in case there is excess paint. Just tap it once, then you'll see the paint will move more smoothly and there won't be a blob of paint, which some people find difficult to control. So I also learned over the time that which I used to take for granted while teaching, actually those things maybe I will think it's too simple, but it's always good to tell. So there is no doubt. It's real. And you see, I'm not using too much paint also, thin, because I want to give a very soothing and calming effect. So I'm not using thick. There are some paints where I would use a lot of texture, but for this I'm not using. So I'm keeping the paint very fluid. going with lines, lines. So first I did the trunk, actually, the branches, and then I will add more little branches. So there's a larger branches. Then I will add the little branches like this. So you can do it taking your time. We'll add a lot of branches. I'll also add some roots to this. Also, acrylic paint, you should put it in the water, like wash it immediately, otherwise the paint will dry in your brush. So this paint dries very easily, faster. Now I've started pulling out smaller branches, maybe add a few more larger branches. So I will check the composition and decide. Add a branch here. Here. Now, when I want a fine tip, I would remove all excess paint from my brush. Again, a little hack which helps, and then load my paint as much as needed, so very little, and then go with. So now you will see I will have better control to make very thin branches. Remember that the branches can touch each other, so no problem. Sometimes they will crisscross. Just you can watch the screen how I'm doing. I will just add small branches. Now this part of the tree, you can just watch how I will create little branches and leave it like this. Sometimes we see the branches on top of the land. So like that, those branches, just a few. And we'll add the roots. Another very important thing to keep in mind is near the trunk, the branches would be thicker. As it goes outward, it would move to very thin. Then only it will look aesthetically very beautiful. Very, very thin lines. Thin lines you will make using only the tip of the liner brush. When you use the liner brush, if some of the blue or the thicker paint in the background is getting lifted, no problem. It will add to the enigma of this tree. So you can just remove from the tip of the brush with the tissue and then go again and let it lift those paints and drag those paints is absolutely fine. You can see that it is lifting and dragging the paint. Most of the tree trunks would go a little bit upward, and because of the sun rays pulling it. So instead of putting maximum of the branches downward, overall the tree branches has to go upward. You can see how it is lifting the paint, but it is adding to the beauty of the tree. Now in acrylic painting, there are different type of trees, of course, with leaves, flowers and all. But for this little like a abstract touch, which we'll give to this, we'll leave it like that, just with a lot of branches. If it's going good so far, just write to me in the chat. Yes. Or thumbs up. Yeah, it's fine, Zara. Just to be sure that you're getting what I'm saying. Yeah, superb. Right, sir. Very good. Let's now enjoy the process of painting. Any questions you have, you can ask me now. You can always ask me later also. Like this with the tape, carry on. This is very meditative also. Make these branches. I'll continue with the branches, but I will also show how we were going to do the roots. So just downward and little bit thinner than the branches because these are roots. So it won't be so thick. Like this, you can go with the roots. Little bit of brown color also you can do, like mix of white and brown, not only brown, because then there won't be harmony. So for example, the brown is getting lifted, it is fine. And also in your brush, you can take a tiny bit of brown, like this all the way. I will go with the roots as well. So this painting has a symbolic meaning also, that what we see outside, there is always this root which is holding us. Continuing with white. Some scratching you can do with the back of the brush also, like this. Scratching for the roots. You can just etch like the surface. Remember to wipe off when every time you lift some paint, just wipe it off. When you come to the end of a branch, you can also flick your brush a bit. That means like how you do hair, paint hair, like the same concept, flick it. Just flick, slightly flick. And then if there is some excess paint, you can just remove it. Flicking the brush will give a very like a thin fading away branches. The roots have a lot of thin ones, so that you can use a thinner brush and just lift it. Or even with, like as I showed you, the back of the brush or any sharp object, you can just remove, like a stylus or something if you have. Yeah, Zara, very good. We have come almost to the end of the session. So yeah, hold on. Just make it gallery. Yeah, Zara, very good. Very nice. So I'll just tell that with this, we come to the end of the session. Just we can keep adding few more white branches. It depends again on personal choice, how much you want to add. And you can also add other special colors like silver. You can also do that to create more magic in this tree.